Welcome back. In today's video, we take a look at the spell towers and what they're good for, what you shouldn't use, and how to get the best value out of them. Let's get right into it. The Earthquake Tower is the newest addition to the spell tower pool. As you can see here, it deals 30% damage, and then we have the 50-second recharge time, which is quite quick and really nice to see. But the big disadvantage of the Earthquake Tower is that it only targets ground. At the moment, it's a very air-heavy meta. You can see a lot of Hydra hits, which means dragons and drag riders. See a lot of Inferno Dragons, Super Dragons, E-Dragons, everything with air, even Lalo works now. So yeah, obviously only targeting ground is really weak against that, and that being the blind spot of the Earthquake Tower makes it not usable at the moment. Maybe if there's a way that it also affects air, then it can be nice, because the 30% damage at the 50-second recharge time are actually really good, but it's just not worth it to use it. And yeah, it's unfortunately not really finding a place in the meta at the moment. As you can see in the bottom left, there's earthquakes thrown at the troops. I will have another replay in a second. And then also the earthquake that gets deployed once the spell tower is taken care of, if it hasn't thrown the earthquake before it. So that's how the earthquake gets deployed. So here we can see the Earthquake Tower in action. As you can see here, I'm just starting my queen at the 6 o'clock side, and I have the action figure. The action figure is going to run right into the earthquake, and as you can see, the earthquake gets launched, deals massive damage. Here we can see the range of the Earthquake Tower. It has quite a big range, and then as you saw before, the earthquake spell gets launched towards the troops that get into that wide range we can see here. It deals a lot of damage, but as I said, also when the spell tower gets taken care of, also going to drop a Earthquake Tower if it hasn't thrown one yet in the last 50 seconds. Always needs 50 seconds to recharge, but unfortunately with it only targeting ground, it doesn't really have a place in the meta, and is therefore also the worst spell tower at the moment. Let's continue with the Invisibility Tower. The Invisibility Tower is quite strong in some cases, used to be a lot stronger, and I will explain in a second. It also has a 50-second recharge time, so that's the same as the Earthquake spell. It works a little bit different than some of these other spells. The effect duration is 4.5 seconds, and the Invisibility Tower is doing exactly what it says. As you can see here, if a building in the Invisibility Tower gets damaged, then it's going to trigger and make the buildings in the range invisible. Here we can see a little replay of it. I'm just going to put an arrow through the base. In the middle there is 2 invisibility towers, and you can see all these buildings getting invisible. And here we can see the range of the invisibility tower. The range is quite small. The range shows exactly what it covers. What's really important is that the invisibility tower needs to cover the core of the building to make it invisible. I will show you what I mean. For example, with the 4x4 buildings, if I have a 2-tile difference, it does hit the town hall, but it doesn't cover it. So what you will see, if I move it 1 tile closer, now the town hall also gets this little light blue shine, which means that it's going to get invisible once the invisible tower is triggered. The same way it works also with 3x3 buildings. If there's a 2-tile gap, it's not going to work. I need to move it 1 tile closer for it to work. The same also with the diagonal. It's not going to cover diagonally when there's just 1 tile difference. However, if I move 1 tile closer, it does cover. And then we of course have the 2x2 buildings. When there is a 2-tile gap, it works. When it's at a 3-tile gap, it doesn't cover. Obviously 1 and 2 tiles, both the same. I also have a touching, obviously also works. And then diagonally, it's going to work like this. It's also going to work like this. And so you can just see there's like different ways to use it. It's going to cover all these different buildings here. And yeah, you can just see how it works. Here, this is not going to be in the range anymore. So this is like how it works. Every building that is in that area that has this blue shine is going to get invisible. And yeah, in general, this spell tower can be quite good. It was definitely stronger at some earlier tunnels. Now there's many ways to trigger it. One most notably is of course the jetpack. the Queen Arrow is really strong, the Log Launcher as a siege is really strong. So those are really good ways to counter it. Of course, it can also get triggered in other ways. So what's special here is that it gets triggered when buildings that are in the range or the spell tower itself gets significant damage. What's really important and sometimes looks a little bit buggy is that those troops which trigger it need to stay alive a little bit longer. So if you just put down an archer that is going to hit that air sweeper, but then it immediately dies off, that's not going to trigger the Invis tower. It needs to be something that survives a little bit longer, so the Invis tower recognizes, okay, there is something there. So this is how this works. One way you have to use the Invis tower, this is at least my recommendation, is that you combine it with heavy damage around it. So you want that area to be completely gone, and while it's invisible, that it deals a lot of damage. And also you want the troops that came to the invisible tower, triggered it, to leave that area. So what I mean by that is that you don't want the troops to come there, trigger the invisibility tower, then take down a storage or something nearby, and then go back to the buildings which come out of the invisibility tower. You want the troops to trigger the invis, leave that area, get heavy damage, and have to get rid of a lot of other stuff before they can head back. So one way you can do it is, like, for example, stack good damage around it. Let's say we have, for example, this. Everything of this is going to be invisible. We want to have some builder huts there as well. And let's say we put, for example, a minion prince here. Now we're going to put a wall around it, so it gets protected from like easy access of like heroes, etc. Let's do this, and then we have another layer of walls I would put around it just to make sure that it doesn't get triggered so easily. So we have this now, for example, and now we want to put a dead zone around it. A dead zone means empty space with walls, which, for example, makes the pathing harder. But you could do something like this. So now, for example, the troops that trigger the Invis tower are going to leave that range once that Invis tower pops. So once these buildings get hit, everything there goes invisible, and every troop that came to the core is going to leave the core, and the core can deal a lot of damage while the troops are not fighting back, basically. So this is definitely something to recommend with the Invis tower. It can be quite nice in Legends, definitely, and also in some of the other bases, has also even been seen at the World Championship before. Can be quite nice, but at the moment there's a lot of ways to deal with it. So always be cautious with it, using it. There are two better spell tower options I would rather recommend you, but don't sleep on the Invis tower. Can be quite nice. Especially for the more casual players, can be really hard and not so easy to deal with it. But yeah, always be cautious with it, especially if you have heroes and the Tornado Guardian nearby. Yeah, here the Town Hall and the Minion Prince are going to be invisible, most likely. But it's, for example, possible that the Minion Prince leaves that invis range, also the Tornado Guardian leave that range, and then the troops can take down that Minion Prince or the Tornado Guardian, and then the buildings which were invisible return, and the troops just turn around and take down the core. So that's something to be cautious about. The same applies to clan castle troops, skeletons, and like I said, heroes. So always be careful with that, that you don't allow such an easy takedown then, because troops can just trigger that invis, take down those heroes, the skeletons, whatever, and then come back to the core. That's really not what you want if you use the Invis tower. And now we come to the top two. I mean, there's only 4 spell towers, so quite easy to be in the top 50%, I would say. But the Poison Tower and the Rage Tower, which I will talk about after the Poison Tower, are definitely the 2 strongest spell towers. I would definitely recommend using those 2 if you can. As you can see here, there's the stats. The hit points stay the same for all of the spell towers. The effect duration is 12 seconds, and then you can see it deals 60 damage per second. The attack rate is decreased, so the troops attack slower. Then also the attack speed, or the speed in general, is decreased, so the troops are slower by 35%. And as you can see here, the recharge time is 70. which is 20 seconds longer than the Invis Tower or the Earthquake Tower, but nonetheless, it's still a really good spell tower, and it targets ground and air. So here you can see a spell tower, the poison spell tower in action. I'm going to pull it with rocket loons, and you can see here it slows down those rocket loons. And here we see the range of the poison spell tower. The poison spell tower is launching that poison right onto the troops. And like we said, it establishes that slowdown and deals damage to them. Can be really strong, especially to those rather spammy hits. Can deal a lot of damage. Can damage and take out healers, bigger groups, and also like the slowdown helps a lot. Yeah, just make giving the defenses more time to deal a lot of damage, and then also, for example, heroes have an easier time when the troops are under poison. So one thing that shouldn't be possible is what we just saw on that replay, that you can easily lure it. There were times last year when Root Rider was very popular that people use lava hounds to pull that poison towers. That is really hard to stop. Don't worry about it. If someone is investing 30 troop space to pull your poison tower, it's completely fine. Of course, they can get traps with it. That's also something to consider as an attacker. If you use, for example, Root Riders, those lava hounds can be really nice to trigger those poison towers. But as a base builder, I would not worry about it too much. What shouldn't be possible though is an easy lure with rocket loons, with hog riders, wall breakers, or any other cheap investment. Don't allow those poison towers to get triggered so easily. They are very valuable. You only have 2 spell towers, so always think about that. And yeah, that being said, you also don't want the spell towers usually to be too much in the core, so you need like to find the right balance between not too far outside and not far towards the core, because usually when you have them very much toward the core, then they get triggered quite easily by troops that split off from the main force, and then they get really little value. You want them on the main troops and ideally in heavy damage. But there comes another big advantage of the poison spell tower. You don't need to combine it as much with heavy key defenses, like for example the Invisibility tower or the Rage tower, which I'll explain in a second. So always be mindful of that. You don't want those spell towers getting taken down with too much value around it. That really hurts, especially a Fireball, an Arrow, or the Dragon Duke Dash can deal a lot of damage, take down those spell towers. So always be aware of that and careful with it, but the Poison Spell Tower is really good. And then last but certainly not least, let's talk about the Rage Spell Tower. The Rage Spell Tower is very strong. The effect duration is 18 seconds. It recharges every 70 seconds, the same as the Poison Spell. And the damage increase is 60%, which is a lot of damage. You definitely want that damage increase on the high hitting defenses, the key defenses. For example, as you can see here, the expose, or here we have a little replay. As you can see here, I'm triggering that spell tower, the rage spell tower there at the 2 o'clock side. You can see there is the fire spitter in the rage, the scatter in the rage, the multi in the rage, and also that super wizard tower as well as that air expo. Even the dragon duke was in the rage a little bit, and they deal a lot of damage that way. So here we can see the rage tower and how it works. You can see the outside range, the white circle, that's where the spell tower gets triggered. And then you see the inside purple circle, that's where the rage tower effect works. So what you need to be aware of is that the spell tower can also be triggered. Be mindful of that. If you use it very far outside the base, it can be triggered quite easily, especially by rocket loons. Just need to put a rocket loon basically into that white circle, and then the rage tower is going to get triggered. So definitely be mindful of that. And then there's a really important thing to figure out the ranges. The 4x4 buildings, you can have them essentially like this, but here you obviously see the Tunnel 18 is not a defense building, so it doesn't matter as much, but it also ranges up heroes, clan castle troops, Tunnel Guardians, etc. But yeah, the Tunnel 18 is not definitely something you need to have in the range, in Tunnel 17. That was definitely the other discussion, but for Tunnel 18 it's not that relevant. You rather want those other buildings inside the range, and especially those scatter shots deal heavy damage. but you can also obviously have like a monolith, super arched or the multi-archer tower, ricochet cannon, revenge tower, fire spitters, also the seasonal defenses, the lava launcher, the roaster, or the air bombs, the super wizard towers. All these could be in there, and then obviously you need to make sure that it works. Here you can see all of these are now actually in the rage. There is also the possibility that you can put them here on a diagonal, but yeah, otherwise there needs to be that 2-tile gap. Obviously you can also have 1 tile or just touching, but the maximum range is that 2-tile gap or the 1-tile diagonal. If I now move that one out like this, it's not going to work. Here it's not going to work. It needs to be closer, either the 1-tile diagonal or the 2-tile, like on either on the X or Y axis, I guess. And yeah, that's how it works with the 3x3. But then obviously there is also the 2x2 buildings. The 2x2 buildings can be also one diagonal. Two diagonal is not going to work, but on the one diagonal you can also push them one to the side, and you also can go here. All of that is covered, as I can show you right here. All of these completely work. All of these squares are covered, and then really important, especially with these multis, you have that 3-tile gap you can do on the X and Y. So that way you can, for example, have a storage in between, like so, which is really good against the fireball because the elixir storage is not going to go down to the fireball. That also brings me to the next topic. Of course, I can completely stack this with high value. Let's say we just put a bunch of value around it, and obviously this makes this rage tower really, really strong. But there's obviously also a downside. And if I do this and now you just play a fireball on that rage tower, everything is going to be gone. So that really gives good value, of course, good pathing. So always be mindful of that to not overload those spell towers. You want a decent amount of damage around that spell tower. Usually it's like at max a handful of defenses, 4 or 5 is completely fine. Maybe have a hero around. You can slot in some storages right there. So the fireball doesn't get everything, just doesn't create perfect pathing there. You can obviously also have Teslas, for example, that preferably don't pop up before. So when someone fireballs there, then the Teslas come up later and destroy the pathing. Something like this can be really nice, but yeah, in general, always have these defenses around, these key defenses, builder huts, can also be air defenses, monolith, the multi-gear tower. There is many different defenses that are very, very strong. Heroes as well. Even clan castle troops get raged up. So the rage tower has a lot of value. Definitely recommend using this one. As well as the poison tower. You can also go with 1 and 1, one poison tower and one rage tower. You can do double poison, double rage. These are at the moment the best combinations. And yeah, that's it from me. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you learned something new, then definitely comment down below. And otherwise, see you next time. Iron out.